Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Ethiopia and Eritrea declare that war has come to an end after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed wraps up an historic state visit to Asmara. After decades of rivalry, the neighbours promise open borders and economic, social and security cooperation. Working out the details may still be demanding. Also, Duduzana Zuma, the son of South Africa's former president, appears in court on corruption charges linked to Jacob Zuma's scandal-plagued rule. And Munga Zalia, one of a few female boxers in DR Congo, as well as battling with the hurdles that creates, she says she doesn't get as much government support in her training as her male counterparts do. We take a closer look. First, families split either side of the Ethiopian-Eritrean border have been finally able to speak to each other for the first time in decades. This was on Monday after direct telephone communications were restored. The countries have issued a joint statement saying that they are no longer at war. The thaw comes after Ethiopia's Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, agreed to abide by borders set in 2002 after the neighbours ended a 2-year war and paid an historic visit to Eritrea over the weekend.
The Ethiopian Prime Minister and Eritrean President embrace warmly at a state dinner in the Eritrean capital. It's the first time in 20 years the two countries have had diplomatic relations. They say it's time to turn the page on decades of tension and war.
The wall that was built between our people against their will for the last 20 years needs to be demolished.
In a rapid rapprochement, the leaders announced they'd reopen their embassies, restore phone lines and reinstate sea and air traffic.
The loss we incurred in the past 25 years cannot be recovered. But today, we feel like we have not lost anything.
Since coming into office in April, Abiy Ahmed has said he would renew dialogue with Eritrea. Ethiopia's decision to recognise a disputed border territory as Eritrean made a big contribution to warmer relations. Eritrea used to be a province of Ethiopia and declared independence in 1993 after 3 decades of war. But between 1998 and 2000, territorial disputes became a new conflict, which would cost 80,000 lives. The two countries signed a peace agreement in 2000. Abiy Ahmed's intention to respect this was welcomed by thousands of cheering Eritreans.
Tom Gardner joins us now with more on the rapprochement between Eritrea and Ethiopia. Tom, this has happened at a dizzying pace. Is it really as easy as that, or is there more hard work yet to come?
Well, it's certainly true that there are tricky issues left to resolve. Ethiopia has promised to implement the UN border ruling, withdraw its troops from the occupied territory, but what that looks like in practice may still be problematic. There have been some protests on the Ethiopian side of the border in recent weeks at the prospect of physical demarcation. Anything that divides towns and villages is likely to be painful. Having said that, I do think the big problem here was always politics, and the politics in Ethiopia just changed so rapidly since Abiy came to power in April. It's hard to imagine this having happened otherwise. It required a big, bold, politically risky move on the Ethiopian side, and Abiy has, to his absolute credit, delivered this. Does
it come at any political cost to him or on the Eritrean side, actually?
Well, I mean, for him, it's not quite as obvious. It seems to have it's gone down very well in Ethiopia, although when he first announced his decision about a month ago, there were, as I said, protests in parts of the country up on the border. It's certainly, Isaias, the Eritrean president, is the one who stands with most to lose here. He's used the threat from Ethiopia over the past 2 decades to justify a permanent war footing and national conscription and maintaining a huge army. With that threat, theoretically now gone, he's going to find himself in a potentially quite destabilizing position.
And how is all this likely to affect Ethiopia and Eritrea's relations with other states and international bodies?
Well, most obviously, this looks like the first step towards lifting of the UN sanctions regime, which was imposed basically at Ethiopia's bidding back in 2009. The UN Secretary General actually said today that sanctions no longer were needed, and the Ethiopians have said today that they've already submitted a formal request to this effect. Ethiopia is at the centre of many international organisations, including the African Union, obviously, and as a member this year of the UN Security Council, so it's already quite well placed diplomatically. Eritrea, obviously, stands to gain the most in this respect, not least by improving its relations with America.
So, ports, airlines, embassies open, free movement across the borders. What does all this mean for the economies of Eritrea and Ethiopia?
Well, the Tigray region in northern Ethiopia has certainly suffered because of the war. But, again, it is really Eritrea that stands to gain most economically from the peace dividend. Before the war, Ethiopia was by far Eritrea's largest trading partner. And after the war ended, Eritrea slipped into economic as well as diplomatic isolation, which obviously culminated in the UN's arms embargo. That's had a very damaging impact on the Eritrean economy because foreign investors are wary and tourists tend to stay away. That might now all change. Eritrea has enormous potential. It has minerals. It has a beautiful coastline. It has a large and dedicated diaspora which can contribute. There's a lot to gain here.
Thanks very much. Tom Gardner there for us in Ethiopia. Now, the son of South Africa's former president, Jacob Zuma, appeared in court on corruption charges on Monday. Duduzana Zuma used to work for the Gupta business family. Now, it was accused of wielding undue and corrupt influence over Zuma's government. Duduzana Zuma has been charged over a bribe allegedly offered to a former deputy finance minister. Mesebisi Jonas says that he was offered a promotion if he agreed to follow the Gupta's instructions. Now, Duduzana Zuma has denied any involvement, but his appearance in court is itself a reflection of President Cyril Ramaphosa's determination to crack down on corruption ever since Jacob Zuma was forced to quit the top job back in February. Jane Flanagan joins us now with more. Jane, how important is this case being brought against Duduzana for the Ramaphosa government?
Well, Duduzana Zuma is the most significant person now to be arrested and appear in court in relation to what's known as state capture. There have been other lieutenants linked to the Gupta family who have come through the courts. But the prosecutors really feel that having the Zuma Jr. Suspect arrested and now passing through the judicial system really shows that they are beginning to make inroads into this very, very complicated case. And although there is one minister who has confirmed that he was offered money by the Guptas in a meeting facilitated by Zuma Jr., they do believe that now he is going to be thoroughly investigated, that they will find other links between the Guptas and his father's corrupt regime.
Now, Duduzana Zuma is also back in court on Thursday on other charges. Tell us a bit more about them.
Well, this relates to a car crash that he was involved with when his Porsche collided with a minibus taxi carrying people home from work on a busy street at a time of a great downpour in Johannesburg. He was said to have been responsible for the crash and the subsequent death of two of the passengers, one that was directly linked to the crash. Earlier, prosecutors said they were not minded to bring charges against Zuma Jr., but since then they have reversed their decision and he is expected to be charged with culpable homicide when he appears in court on Thursday. This significant development this week with him appearing in court not once but twice, I think really reflects how the fortunes of the Zuma family have changed so dramatically since Jacob Zuma stepped down in February.
Thanks very much, Jane Flanagan, there for us in Cape Town. Now, Munga Zalia aspires to become a full-time professional boxer, but it isn't easy. She's one of a few female athletes in her sport in DR Congo, and as well as fighting with the hurdles that creates, she says she doesn't get as much government support in her training as her male counterparts do.
Modestine Munga Zalia is only one of around 30 women boxers in Congo who are active on both professional and amateur circuits. A lack of financial support means the 20-year-old can't train in a fully equipped gym. Instead, she works with her coach outside the legendary stadium in Kinshasa, where Muhammad Ali defeated the favourite George Foreman in 1974. Modestine says the government only supports male boxers.
Our sports ministry does not support female boxing. For example, we went to represent our country at the African Championship tournament for female boxers. It was a year ago and we still have not received our allowances. But for the love of our country, we'll continue to fight. I am passionate about boxing and I will not be discouraged.
So far, she has fought in 15 professional matches and won 9 of them.
You know, in life, you always have to take risks. There are people who make a living from boxing, and she will also one day make a living from boxing because she has the will to go all the way. The day the government decides to invest in the sport, Modestine will go even further.
Modestine says she hopes one day Congolese promoters and sponsors will also support female boxers. But for now, it's perceived, she says, as a sport too violent for women.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.